Good morning,
Hello.
Tracy.
Good morning, Em. How are you?
I'm well, and we're here for another Books at Lunchtime.
How exciting.
And we're delighted not to be by ourselves again. Not that we don't like talking to one another, but it's always better when we can welcome somebody else along. And this morning, we're delighted to be joined by Ross Welford. Good morning, Ross.
Good morning.
Hi,
Good
Ross.
morning, everybody in lovely Norfolk.
Yes. It's lovely to have you along. We've enjoyed so many of your books, actually, and so many of our readers have, that when we started making a wish list of who we'd like to talk to, you were quite near the top. So thank you for joining us. Particularly this time of year, we get asked quite a lot about books for children, because not all adults read children's books, bizarrely. And I really like recommending your books, partly because they're not just a good read, but because they feature boys and girls, because sometimes an author just writes a boy or just writes a girl, often have both, but you get a different protagonist. So.
Yeah, well, you see, I'm aiming to be like David Williams, who sells to boys and girls. I've maybe got a fraction of his sales. You know? I like the sentiment. I don't think that I think there's a place for boys' books and girls' books, but I like to double my chances of a sale.
Absolutely, and I'm not going to compare or contrast you with Mr. Williams, but I would say that yours, each plot seems quite original, and even though it has a test of the imagination, it's not fantastic.
Well, I do my best.
Well, I would really love to hear about what you write. I would love to hear you say, because I've enjoyed your books, but not everyone has. So what have you written that people have enjoyed so far?
Well, gosh, now you're asking. I think very broadly, if somebody is not familiar with my stuff, it is quite difficult to classify. It's not really science fiction, but it's sort of science fiction. It's not magical fantasy, but it is a bit. So it's a bit sciencey, a bit fantasy, a bit magical, but always so far in a real contemporary setting. So that makes my publisher sort of calls it magical realism, but I don't really like that. Because,
No, I would disagree enthusiastically with that. I would say that it's more.
Yeah. So let's call it magical science fantasy in a contemporary setting.
Okay, I describe it to customers as being regular fiction about regular kids who end up with sci-fi problems.
That'll do. Can I borrow that, Tracy? That'll do. I'll put it on the back of the book. Yeah. So in terms of titles, my first one, and still the one that is most associated with me, is time traveling with a hamster. But since then, I've gone through various adventures, such as invisibility, immortality. You got that? Have you got a pandemic? I did a pandemic long before we even knew the word, and an alien landing on Earth, which is a kid who came from space. That's it. Oh, you've got the promo stuff, and the next one is two boys who explore their dreams and get stuck in this dreamy netherworld of adventures, and that one's out in January. So try and find there's bound to be something there for somebody who's not read me before.
One of the things that I really appreciate about your writing, and that makes me quite confident about recommending them, is that even though there are some fairly scary situations, for instance, in The Kid Who Came from Space, the first 2 or 3 pages could give you nightmares, but by the 4th page, it's going to be okay. I don't think it's spoiling anything to say that the twin sister. Do you want to tell what the scenario?
Yes. No, it's not spoiling anything. I think it's even on the bourbon. The story starts with an 11-year-old girl going missing, missing from a small village in Northumberland on Christmas Eve. And it very soon becomes clear that she's been abducted by aliens. And it's down to her twin brother and his best friend to go and, well, first of all, they meet an alien from the same planet who directs them in a hair-raising adventure to get Tammy, the sister, back. So yeah, the book does open. The opening chapters do deal with a really quite a distressing thing, which is the disappearance of a child, and that was quite hard to write for for an audience of 10-year-olds, so as to make it seem that it was plausible, but not too scary, and also, as you say, quite soon to introduce elements of hope and elements that you think, yeah, okay, in that instance, it was. I kept thinking of them as spoiler alerts. Saying, yeah, look, she's going to be okay. She's going to be okay. But I thought in this instance, it was important to keep the audience reassured, if you like, that while you were going to be on your edge of your seat, you weren't going to be scared out of your wits.
That's right. I mean, it's literally on page 4. So she's an exhibit. She's not just gone. We have her perspective, but she's an exhibit in, I guess, some sort of display. Yeah. And there's someone looking at her, one of these aliens, and he's trying to communicate to her. And on page 4, it says, "I will be returning Tammy to Earth. It will be dangerous. If I fail, I will be put to sleep for the rest of my life. And if I succeed, well, I will probably have to do it again with another exhibit, such as the curse of having feelings." So we've got an alien who's not evil straight away, someone who we can sympathize with and who's going to help.
Yes, that's right. It's interesting you remind me about that because I've forgotten. I rejigged the opening paragraph, the opening chapters of that quite late on, in order to let the reader know that the girl who's gone missing is actually still alive. So I put that right at the front, and that came in the editing process. Really, so it was looking at this and looking, how scary do I want this to be? How off-putting? And if I put that chapter right at the very, very front, where the reader is almost a little bit ahead, and the reader goes, okay, I know she's okay. I know she's okay. So that gives you the trust, the faith to carry on reading the story.
Absolutely, and I think that shows a lot of care and concern and understanding of your reader, actually. So speaking of skipping ahead and knowing what's coming, can you tell us about Time Traveling with a Hamster?
Time Traveling with a Hamster. Well, my first one, gosh, it's a long time since I've spoken about that, but it's such a good title. I love the title of that one. In that one, a young boy whose father died when he was very, very little, comes across his father's time machine. His father built a secret time machine, and then wrote a letter to his son Al, who was the protagonist, for Al to open on his 11th birthday, which he duly does. And the letter directs him to his father's secret time machine and urges Al to go back in time to prevent the accident that caused his father's death. Well, yeah, that's about it. Without wanting to give the whole plot away.
No, of course not. Without wanting to give the whole plot away. But I thought it was really clever and just very thoughtful and caring. And he's got quite a grandfather as well, hasn't he?
He has. Oh, lovely Grandpa Byron, who is Indian, he's Punjabi, and who came to England in the 1960s, and grew up and lived in the Northeast. All of my books are set in the Northeast, so it gave me an opportunity to write some Geordie and Indian flavored dialogue, which is quite good fun. Quite good fun trying to get that voice right so that you can hear somebody whose English is inflected both with Indian tones and with Geordie. It's quite. I can hear Grandpa Byron in my head.
After all these years, the book did remarkably well for a first novel, didn't it?
Yeah, I was very pleased. I mean, this was back in 2019. Listen to me. Back in 2016, it was it was nominated for a record 23 major awards.
Wow.
But it didn't win any of them.
But how many books actually? Yeah, the record 23 major awards.
Right, 23 awards in the UK anyway, including the Carnegie and the Waterstones and the Blue Peter, and didn't.
And it's been translated into a lot of languages as well, so that's another sign that it's actually really good. So I hugely recommend that one.
Thank you very much. It still does very, very well.
Yes.
It's paid my rent a little bit as Hamster, and people always go back to that one as well. Even if they join my books a bit later. I mean, I don't write series. All my books are standalones, but very, very often, if they've read one of my more recent ones, they'll go back and read Time Traveling with a Hamster, because it's very typical of my stuff.
Yeah, well, hugely recommend that. But you're still writing, aren't you? All these books in only 4 years. What's next?
Next is When We Got Lost in Dreamland, which is coming up in January 2021 in all good bookshops, especially yours, no doubt. And it's the story of two brothers, Malky and Seb, who encounter an old man and his Dreaminator, which is a machine that you hang about, a device that you hang above your bed, and it guarantees that you can have lucid dreams or be awake during your dreams. And it's all fun and games at first until it goes wrong. As with all of these sort of things, they have a tremendous time and they have some wonderful adventures. But then Seb, the younger brother, won't wake up from one dream where he has been captured by a tribe of spear-wielding Stone Age warriors, and he doesn't wake up. And he is in a coma in hospital, mystifying the doctors. And his brother, Malky, realizes that the only thing that is going to get his brother back is that if he goes back into the dream. And yes, terror, adventure, and huge laughs ensue.
It sounds like one really to look forward to. So when we first met you in London a couple of years ago, when The Kid Who Came from Space had just come out, you and I had a chat about other books which are similarly, but not the same, real life kids with sci-fi problems, but it's astonishing just how different they can be.
Oh, God,
so
yeah.
What if someone has read all of your books, what would you recommend they pick up next?
If they like that sort of thing, well, the only writer that I know that does stuff that's very like mine is Christopher Edge, and his stories cross over into the same territory as mine, and they're all very different. Oh, you got that Maisie Day.
That's I give a parental warning on that one.
That is truly quite scary. Maisie
that is
Day.
Truly very scary, actually.
But very good, and the imagination behind it is amazing. Jamie Drake. Oh, I like that one. Yeah, that was good. I think I recommended that one on the cover. And I'll Be Bright. I'll Be Bright is funny because that came out at more or less exactly the same time as Time Traveling with a Hamster, and the parallels between the many worlds of I'll Be Bright and my book were really quite astonishing. not only the main character had the same name, but both characters went off in a homemade time machine into the realms of space-time to rescue a deceased parent. So, honestly, when I was reading this, I thought, no, this can't be. This is exactly the same plot. I was, obviously we both had the same idea at the same time. And actually, when you read it, it's very, very different.
It's completely different because in Time Traveling with a Hamster, I think that he was no longer grieving because his loss had been so long before. But in I'll Be Bright, he's really definitely not dealing with the loss of his mom. So I would say in all of the Christopher Edge books I've read, the kids have already got big problems.
Yes.
And then sci-fi comes in. So I would give these to a more emotionally mature child than I would your books.
Right. Okay, that's interesting. Now he's got a new one out. Chris has got one coming out in January, called Space Oddity, which again is overlaps with the plot of The Kid Who Came from Space. Here is a kid in Chris's case. It's a boy who discovers that his father is an alien. He is in fact half alien.
I think all their children suspect that.
Chris's books are a lot funnier than mine, and his humor is more direct, and so I think on that level, the children really like it. They're also a bit short, but in terms of themes, if somebody liked my stuff, I would point them in Chris's direction, because his books they're funny, and a lot of the themes are quite complex.
I would agree with that. And if we were imagining the kind of silly to serious spectrum, a step back the other way, I think would be Maz Evans, who I think you're also quite familiar with.
Yeah. Well, Maz wrote Who Let the Gods Out, and what she now calls it's the Gods series. They're all the titles are based on simply the quest. That's it. They're all lousy song-based puns. As Maz would be the first to admit, actually. But they've done very well for her. And yes, the Who Let the Gods Out a really good intro to Greek mythology, I think, and they're very funny. I mean, Maz's writing is funny, and she has, I think it's Maz that's got another series coming about a girl spy called Vi Spy. Maybe I'm not supposed to say that. No, I did. I mean, I'm sure I've seen it on Twitter. So it must be true. But yeah, Maz's books do very well, and again, they're very, very funny. So
from memory, they are about a boy who has serious problems because he has one parent. She has some form of dementia. Something's clearly not right, but he's not entirely sure what it is. He's trying to save the family home and save the farm single-handedly with sort of enough money to buy a tin of beans a week. And he can see the bills piling up, and he essentially he's trying to fight off the land grabber, horrible woman who's trying to buy the farm off them, and then he gets mixed up with almost like a gang of kids, but it's not kids. It's the very naughty Greek gods who are still hanging around, but they've got old.
Yeah, that's right. God, it was a while since I've read that. I'll have to reread those. They're great, They
are great because he takes the character of each god and just makes a joke of it almost. So Zeus still fancies himself as a ladies' man and walks around wearing shiny white shirts that are unbuttoned all the way and gold medallions. And
that's right. So yeah, and I'm just trying to think if there's any more recent ones. Thomas Taylor, the Malamander, and there's now a second one that's come out set in the fictional seaside resort called Erie-on-Sea. And yeah, I really recommend that. Thomas said Malamander. It's a scary, but not. There's not really any. There are no issues in this one, because very often I think you know, a lot of children's writers, and myself included, you know, we sometimes get a little bit sidetracked by, oh, what are the issues? What's the problem that this kid's got? And sometimes we forget that very often kids, you know, just want to read an adventure or read something that's good fun, or a good fun and an adventure. And yes, Thomas Taylor's Malamander is something that I would recommend very highly. That came out last year, and I loved it.
I think we have it on the shelf. The shop is open now, so I can't be out with the customers anymore. I've got to film in the back room.
Everybody in Norfolk, go down to Kett's bookshop.
Yeah, it's brilliant having the customers back in. We've really, really missed having customers, but I'm so glad that we came up with this, because we would never have got to talk with you and the others if we hadn't had the second lockdown. So there's one good thing that's come out of it.
Yeah, well, I'm very, very, very happy to do it. And, you know, you guys do such good work. I mean, bookshops, blimey, the last few months have taken such a hit. You know, Waterstones can probably weather it, but independents, you know, they're at the sharp end of it all. So I wish you luck. Anything I can do to help, you know, I'm happy to do it.
Thank you, Ross. We'll take you up on it when everything gets back to normal. There's another sci-fi idea. We'll definitely invite you back. So thank you again for speaking to us.
Not at all. Not at all. Everybody go to Kett's Bookshop. I love it. I was actually there when
you were. Yes.
It's a lovely place. So thank you for having me.
Thanks, Ross. It's lovely to speak with you.
Emma.
Okay.
Nice to talk to you, and
yes.
See you again.
See you again. Thanks again. Bye.
Bye-bye.